Tokyo, 1989. The Imperial Palace grounds are worth more than all of California. A single square meter of Tokyo real estate costs $140,000. Japan owns Rockefeller Center, Columbia Pictures, and Pebble Beach. The Nikkei stock index hits 38,915. They're buying America piece by piece. Then comes 1990. The bubble pops. 34 years later, Japan still hasn't recovered. An entire generation lost, careers destroyed, savings evaporated, dreams abandoned. They called it the lost decades. Now look at America, 2025. Record stock prices while your grocery bill doubles, housing you can't afford. Jobs that don't pay enough debt. Everywhere, exactly what Japan looked like in 1989. Same warning signs, same denial, same trajectory. What if I told you we're not heading toward Japan's crisis, we're already living it? To understand where America is headed, we need to understand what happened to Japan, not the economics textbook version, the human version. What it felt like to watch everything you worked for become worthless while politicians promised recovery was just around the corner. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And right now, America is speaking Japanese. The same language of asset bubbles, zero interest rates, zombie companies, and a generation that can't afford homes. The rhyme is so exact, it's almost like reading a script written 35 years ago. What I'm about to show you isn't taught in American universities. Japan's lost decades are presented as a cautionary tale, something that happened over there. To them, because they did something wrong, but the truth is darker. We're following their playbook line by line, and we're at the same chapter where everything broke. If your rent takes half your paycheck while Wall Street celebrates record highs, that's not your failure. That's Japan, 1989. If you can't afford to buy a house in the city where you work, that's Tokyo, 1990. If your savings account pays nothing while inflation eats everything, that's Japan's zero interest rate trap. We're not looking at Japan's past. We're looking in a mirror. Let me take you to Tokyo, 1986. The Plaza Accord has just forced the yen to appreciate. To compensate, the Bank of Japan slashes interest rates to historic lows. Source: Bank of Japan historical statistics money becomes almost free. And when money is free, people borrow. A lot. Real estate prices in Tokyo quadrupled in 4 years. Source: Japan Real Estate Institute 1986 to 1990. Stock prices triple. Everyone's getting rich in paper. A taxi driver describes his investment portfolio to his passenger. A housewife trades futures. Your waiter owns 3 investment properties. It's not wealth. It's a fever dream fueled by cheap credit. Corporations borrow billions not to build factories or hire workers, but to speculate in real estate and stocks. Banks lend to anyone with collateral land. The collateral is real estate whose value keeps rising. It's a perfect loop until it isn't. By 1989, Japan's stock market represented 45% of global market capitalization, despite Japan being just 15% of global GDP. Source: Princes of the Yen by Richard Werner. The math doesn't work. But nobody cares about math when everyone's making money. Kenji Yamamoto was a mid-level salaryman at a trading company. In 1988, he bought a small apartment in Tokyo for $800,000. Borrowed, of course. By 1989, it was worth $1.2 million. On paper, he'd made $400,000 in 12 months. He felt brilliant. Source: Dogs and Demons by Alex Kerr. Compilation of testimonials then came December 29, 1989. The Nikkei peaked at 38,915. The Bank of Japan, terrified of the bubble, raised interest rates, not dramatically, just enough to tap the brakes. Source: Bank of Japan policy history. The brakes didn't work. The car went off the cliff. Within 3 years, the Nikkei lost 60% of its value. Source: Nikkei 225 historical data. Kenji's apartment, worth $1.2 million in 1989, dropped to $600,000 by 1992. He still owed $800,000 on the mortgage. He was $200,000 underwater, and he was one of the lucky ones. Real estate prices in Tokyo fell for 14 consecutive years. Source: Japan Real Estate Institute. Companies that had borrowed billions to speculate were suddenly insolvent. But here's where Japan made the fatal mistake. They didn't let them fail. Banks kept lending to bankrupt companies to avoid recognizing losses. Corporations kept operating despite having no path to profitability. They became zombie companies, dead but still walking, consuming credit that could have gone to productive businesses. Source: Bank for International Settlements. Japan's Lost Decade study by 2003. 15% of all Japanese companies were zombies. Source: Bank of Japan Financial System report they couldn't grow, they couldn't invest, they couldn't raise wages. They just ... existed, draining resources, blocking competition, trapping workers in dead-end jobs. Yuki Tanaka graduated from university in 1991 right. Into the collapse, she sent 200 job applications, got 3 interviews, 0 offers. The companies that were hiring paid 30% less than they'd paid the class of 1989. Source: Japanese Ministry of Labor Statistics, Employment Ice Age data. She took a part-time job at a convenience store. It was supposed to be temporary. 20 years later, she was still there, still part-time, no benefits, no pension, no future. She's part of what Japan calls the lost generation, people whose entire careers were destroyed because they graduated at the wrong time. This wasn't temporary. This became permanent. Today, 35 years later, the Nikkei only recently returned to its 1989 peak. Source: Nikkei Index, 2024. An entire generation went through their entire working lives without seeing economic growth, without building wealth, without hope. But here's what keeps me up at night. Japan did this with a savings rate of 15%, minimal consumer debt, and a strong manufacturing base. Source: OECD. Economic Surveys Japan-America is trying the same policies with a savings rate of 3%, record consumer debt, and a hollowed-out industrial sector. Source: U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis 2024. We're running Japan's playbook on hard mode. That pattern didn't stay in Japan. It went into hibernation, studying, evolving, waiting for the right conditions. And then it found America. Fast forward to 2008. The U.S. housing bubble collapses. The Federal Reserve's response: copy Japan's playbook exactly, slash interest rates to 0. Keep them there for several years. Source: Federal Reserve historical rates, print trillions of dollars, bail out banks, prop up zombie companies, and just like Japan, asset prices recovered. The S&P 500 tripled from its 2009 low. Source: S&P 500 historical data. Housing prices in major cities doubled, then tripled. Source: S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller Index, but wages, those barely moved. Source: Federal Reserve Wage Growth Tracker. Sound familiar? It should. It's Tokyo, 1989, with American characteristics. Key claims: verification. 1. Tokyo Imperial Palace worth more than California in 1989. Source: Japan's Bubble Economy by Christopher Wood to Nikkei peaked at 38,915. On December 29, 1989. Source: Nikkei Historical Data. 3. Tokyo real estate fell for 14 consecutive years. Source: Japan Real Estate Institute. For 15% of Japanese companies were zombies by 2003. Source: Bank of Japan Financial System report. 5. U.S. savings rate dropped to 3%. Source: Bureau of Economic Analysis. 2024. 6. Federal Reserve held rates at 0 2008 to 2015. Source: Federal Reserve historical data. So what does this mean for you, for your actual life, right now? Your rent or mortgage? In Japan's bubble, average workers spent 40% of income on housing. Source: Japanese Housing Bureau. In America today, renters in major cities spend 35 to 45% of income on rent. Source: Zillow Rent Affordability Index, 2024. In some cities, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, sits over 50%. You're not failing. You're living in a bubble. Your savings. Japan's interest rates went to 0 and stayed there for 25 years. Source: Bank of Japan America has been at or near 0 for most of the last 16 years. Source: Federal Reserve. Your savings account currently pays 0.5%, while inflation is 3.7%. Source: FDIC, average rates. BLSCPI. October 2024, you're losing 3.2% purchasing power per year. That's not saving, that's financial erosion. Your job prospects. Just like Japan's lost generation, American millennials and Gen Z face wage stagnation, gig economy jobs, and vanishing benefits. Average entry-level salary in 2024 is $45,000. Source: National Association. Of colleges and employers adjusted for inflation, that's less than what boomers earned in 1989. Your ability to buy a home in Japan. The average age of first-time homebuyers climbed from 32 in 1985 to 42 by 2010. Source: Japanese Housing Finance Agency. In America, it's gone from 31 in 2008 to 36 in 2024. Source: National Association of Realtors, a 5-year jump in 16 years. At this rate, by 2030, the average first-time buyer will be 40. Your retirement? Japanese retirees who were 50 in 1989 watched their retirement savings stagnate for 35 years. Many had to return to work. Source: Japanese Pension Service. American 401ks look healthy because stock prices are high. But they're high for the same reason Japan's stocks were high in 1989. Cheap money propping up valuations that don't reflect economic reality. And here's the terrifying part. The U.S. national debt is $35 trillion to 125% of GDP. Source: U.S. Treasury, October 2024, Japan's debt when their crisis started. 65% of GDP. Source: Japanese Ministry of Finance today. Japan's debt is 264% of GDP. Source: IMF Fiscal Monitor, 2024. That's where extended economic stagnation leads. More debt, more printing. Less growth, a trap that compounds itself. We're not heading toward Japan's crisis. We're already in it. We've been in it since 2008. The difference is we're calling it recovery. Now, some will say, but America isn't Japan. We have innovation, tech companies, global reserve currency. Japan had Sony, Nintendo, Toyota global dominators. It didn't save them. Some will say, we learned from Japan's mistakes. Really? We copied their zero-interest policy. We propped up zombie banks. We inflated asset bubbles. If we learn from their mistakes, we learn to repeat them. Some will say, this time is different. Those are the 4 most expensive words in economics. And they're especially expensive when you're following a playbook that already failed once. The pattern is clear. Asset prices disconnected from incomes? Check zero interest rates, creating zombie companies. Check an entire generation unable to build wealth. Check policymakers promising recovery while printing money. Check Japan's lost decades weren't caused by something unique to Japan. They were caused by cheap credit, asset bubbles, and refusing to let failure clear the system. All things America is doing right now. On a bigger scale, 35 years later, Japan still hasn't recovered. Young Japanese still live with their parents. I still work part-time jobs, still can't afford children. The birth rate collapsed. Source: Japanese Ministry of Health. The economy never regained its dynamism. An entire nation, frozen in time, living in the shadow of 1989, and America is following the same path. Your inability to afford a house isn't a personal failure. Your stagnant wages aren't lacking ambition. Your evaporating savings aren't bad planning. You're living through America's lost decades. They just haven't named them yet, but they will. In 20 years, they'll look back at 2008, 2030s, and call it America's lost decades. And your children will ask, why didn't anyone see it coming? And you'll have to tell them, we did. We watched it happen to Japan. We knew exactly what would happen, and we did it anyway. 2 nations, 2 bubbles, 2 collapses, same policies, same results, different languages, same lost generations. So here's what haunts me. Are we the generation that learns from history, or are we just the generation that proves history repeats? So let me ask you, do you feel it? The sense that something's broken? That no matter how hard you work, you can't get ahead? That the rules changed and nobody told you? Drop a comment. Tell me your Japan moment, the moment you realized the game was rigged. I read every single one. And next week we're examining what Japan did to escape their trepanned, why it didn't work, the policies, the consequences, and the one thing that might have saved them. But they never tried it. And neither are we. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for watching this through. If this made you see your financial struggles differently, hit subscribe. More patterns, more truth, more history that's happening right now, every week. I'll see you in the next one.